Right, let's start with the transfers then. And with just 2 weeks left in the January window, there's still plenty of movement expected. So we have had a bit of movement here. Our chief reporter joins me, as always, Kaveh Solhekol. Let's start with it then. AC Milan looking to make a big splash. Not one, but two potential departures from the Premier League to there.
Yes, I think Milan are close to agreeing a deal to sign Kyle Walker, initially on loan from Manchester City. They're also interested in João Felix from Chelsea. Let's just start with Kyle Walker, though, because our colleagues at Sky in Italy are saying that he may have a medical in the next few days. They believe it's going to be a 6-month loan with an option to buy, and the player has agreed to the move in principle. It also looks like Milan are freeing up a space for him in their squad, because they're in talks to sell Emerson Royal, the former Spurs defender, to Galatasaray. So that's Kyle Walker. Now, João Felix, this is an interesting one, because Milan have got a new head coach, Sergio Conceição. His agent is the one and only Jorge Mendes, who is also the agent of João Felix.
Now, quite convenient, isn't it?
Very convenient. Milan interested in signing him. Again, they would like a loan plus an option. I think if Chelsea let him go, they would much prefer, no-brainer, a permanent deal or a loan plus an obligation. And I think there are quite a lot of other Chelsea players that Milan are interested in. There's been talk that they may come in for Ben Chilwell, Christopher Nkunku, Carney Chukwuemeka. I'm not sure if Milan think there's some kind of buy one, get one free deal going on at Stamford Bridge at the moment, but just to let them know, there definitely isn't.
Right.
These players are not for sale, but obviously both of us know in the transfer market, every player does have his price.
They certainly do. Where does this all leave Marcus Rashford? Because there were talks about him going to AC Milan. That's cooled a bit, hasn't it?
I think some people may be getting a little bit frustrated about how much we're talking about Marcus Rashford, because they'll be watching, reading, saying, why do they keep talking about Marcus Rashford? Because nothing's changed. Well, what are the actual developments? Well, I don't think anything has changed publicly, but behind the scenes, obviously his representatives are having talks with lots of interested clubs. Everybody knows that he's on big wages at Manchester United. For United to let him go on loan, they would want all his wages paid. But I think interested clubs know that the closer you get to the deadline, the more likely it is that United will be willing to subsidise his wages. So interested clubs would potentially get a much better deal in 2 weeks' time, closer to the window closing, closer maybe even on deadline day. I think when it comes to AC Milan, I don't think they are going to progress their move for him, according to Sky in Italy. We've been talking about the fact they can only sign one player from the UK. And if they get Kyle Walker, that would mean that they wouldn't be able to get Marcus Rashford. And I'm not sure they could afford his wages at the moment.
Yeah, Zlatan waded in at the weekend, didn't he? Sort of talking about Kyle Walker as well and saying how that was a positive thing to
I think he was asked a question about Kyle Walker and he gave a sort of answer. And then that answer was put to Pep Guardiola, who didn't really want to talk about it very much. He just said, if Ibrahimovic said that, then that's what he said, I think.
Which is great. Actually, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But what about the other players from Manchester United? Because it's not just Rashford, actually, is it? Alejandro Garnacho and Antony could be on their way as well.
I mean, I remember 2.5 years ago when United signed him, one of the most expensive signings in Premier League history, cost, I think, an initial 81 million pounds. Arrived, so much publicity, so much hype, but you have to say he has been very disappointing. I think he's only scored 12 goals. He's become a bit part player. United obviously willing to listen to offers for him, but the only deal that's really materialised is joining Real Betis on loan until the end of the season. So I think United will be hoping he goes out to Real Betis, does really well there, and that means they may be able to sell him and get some of that 81 million pounds back in the summer. Garnacho is a bit more of a strange one, because I think you would think that most United fans would be like, look, this is the kind of young player that we want to stay at the club. He's only 20 years old. He's come up through the youth ranks. but Napoli interested in signing him, Chelsea interested in signing him. I think Napoli value him around 40 million euros. That's not going to be enough. I think if United are to let him go, it would need to be for something closer to £60 million. United also, we're being told, are willing to listen to loan offers for Tyrell Malacia, the left back who's had a lot of injury problems.
Yeah, gosh, so lots of outgoings then. What about any potential incomers for poor Ruben Amorim?
Well, I think the one area of his squad he really wants to strengthen, I mean, there's quite a lot of areas, but I think his priority at the moment is left back, left wing back. Luke Shaw has been out the whole season. Tyrell Malacia has been injured. He's come back. They're going to let him potentially go out on loan. And one of their top targets is the Lecce left wing back, Patrick Dorgu. Now, he's a young, exciting player. He's only 20 years old. I think he was a Danish Player of the Year. I think if United come in for you, then you're going to want to make that move. So that is a potential incoming at Manchester United. But I think they're going to need to have players leaving before they can bring anyone in.
And what about Manchester City? Lots of players seem to be coming in. I know there's kind of like this mini rebuild. We saw Erling Haaland, 9.5-year deal, but lots of players coming in as well.
Lots of players coming in. City returning to really good form yesterday as well, scoring lots of goals. Omar Marmoush is on his way. Abdul Kadir Kuzanov is on his way. Vitor Reich is on his way. There's also been a little bit of talk about Douglas Luiz coming in from Juventus. Now, I wouldn't necessarily put money on this deal happening. I think it's something that Manchester City have looked at, potentially bringing in a new number 6. You could make a very, very good case for bringing in a player like Douglas Luiz, especially if you can do a loan deal with Juventus. Juventus signed him in the summer, 50 million euros from Aston Villa. That move hasn't worked out and he would like to come back. I know lots of other top Premier League clubs have been looking at him. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if he was to return to England in the next few days or weeks. I'm not quite sure whether it will be at Manchester City. OK,
you mentioned the fact that he was a former Aston Villa player, but there's apparently a departure from Aston Villa that you're trying to find out.
Diego Carlos.
Yeah,
we reported this a couple of weeks ago. Diego Carlos, Aston Villa centre-back. He's had injury problems as well. He is close to agreeing a deal to move to Fenerbahce, where he would work with Jose Mourinho. I think Aston Villa's thinking is that he's now 31 years old. They're likely to get around 10 million euros in for him. If he is to make that move, then I think they would look at signing another centre-back, perhaps somebody like Bade at Sevilla.
OK.
The French centre-back, who's I think only 24 or 25. So I think it would make sense for them. But Diego Carlos, Galatasaray were interested in as well. The talks with Fenerbahce have been going on for quite a while, but Jose Mourinho really wants him, and I think he's about to get him.
Let's get to the result of yesterday, and United missed the chance to record back-to-back wins. After the game, Ruben Amorim saying that they might be the worst team in Manchester United history. Now, that is quite a statement. What do you think his thinking is here?
See, I'm not really sure what his motive is for doing this. I was trying to think as a player, how would I feel if my manager came out and said that? I think probably I'd want to prove him wrong. I think that would probably be my first thought. Then would I think if I was one of those players that's maybe lacking a little bit in confidence, which you can see there's lots of mistakes that's going on with Manchester United at the moment. There's certainly players that are lacking that belief and that confidence. So how would that then affect me in that way? And then I was also thinking, what would the owners think of that? So there's clearly something behind saying it. There's a reason behind saying it. Is he trying to take off that pressure of his team at the moment, that he knows it is a big task, it is a big job. So he's sort of saying, well, I don't have these players. We are the worst team at the moment and things are only going to get better. So I'm not too sure what his motive is. Not sure if it's the right way to go about it. I suppose only time will tell.
Do you think they are?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think at the moment they're certainly not performing the way that we thought that they would perform in terms of... It's difficult to say because obviously Amorim came in, he's completely changed their the style, the way of playing. We said it's going to take time. Even when they, got the good result against Everton, I remember him saying, there's going to be storms, this isn't going to be smooth. It's always difficult when you do change a tactic, if you like, mid-season. We praised them when they beat Arsenal in the Cup. We praised them when they drew against Liverpool, and we said defensively they were sound, they were solid, they showed a real resilience, they showed a real discipline off the ball, which was we had to commend them for that. But then I was like, well, what are they going to be when they play against Southampton and they've got to actually go and attack teams? What is the sort of attacking way in this system? How are they going to do that, and will it work? And against Southampton, they were probably quite lucky, weren't they, in terms of 80-odd minutes, Southampton were the better side. Ahmad rescued them. So at the moment, we're still seeing a Manchester United side that are still moments in those attacking thirds. So that's something that he has to improve on. Defensively, again, we're seeing problems. And I know we're going to praise Brighton, but you have to sort of praise Brighton and the way that they exploited Manchester United's weaknesses yesterday. Well,
you mentioned Amad Diallo, so let's talk about him. Of course, got that hat-trick to win that game against Southampton that you were talking about there. He has, I guess, been the bright spark under this Amorim reign so far, but is there a danger they're relying too much on him, and when he doesn't produce, neither do United?
Well, that has been something that we've said, isn't it, for a long period of time, where it's always been on one particular player is going to stand out and make the difference, whether that's Bruno, whether that's Amad Diallo, whether that's Rashford when he had those sort of moments of excellence a few seasons back. And we're seeing it again with Amad Diallo. Where's his best position? Is it as the wing back? Is it as one of the number 10s? I quite like him centrally and with the ability to move out wide, but that sort of freedom in there. But he was the player that stepped up against Southampton. I think when we all thought, wow, this is a huge defeat to Manchester United after getting those couple of positive results, he was the one that stepped up and actually took the game by the scruff of the neck. I just think he really suits Amorim's way of playing, the energy, the intensity that he plays with off the ball, the runs that he makes on the ball, whether that's dribbling, whether that's passing and going. We've seen all sorts of things to his game, and he's still a young player, so he's still got time to improve. So he's a player that you look at when you look at this Manchester United side and you go, well, yeah, he fits that way of playing, but how many of the others fit that way of playing? It's probably not that many.
What about Joshua Zirkzee? Started the game, looked better.
Yeah.
Is that a fair comment? Can he take something from this performance?
Yeah, I think so, because you had to feel for him against Newcastle where things weren't going right. He got substituted before half-time. No player wants that. And a little bit of stick from the fans as well, a certain section of the fans. So that's tough. You've got to deal with that and you've got to put that behind you. And I think when he has played since, we have seen that sort of quality that he has got, whether that's linking play, the ability that he's got making those late runs into the box. Is he the number 9? Is he the answer to the number 9? I'm not too sure. I think Højlund's having a tough time of it at the moment. So again, he's trying to find the best solution in that area. But if you're looking at recruitment, it's certainly an area I think Manchester United would need to look at. You think if you had a top world-class centre-forward, Højlund would probably just be learning off him and coming in for certain games and playing 20 minutes here and 20 minutes there. But it's a lot of pressure on a young man to come in and take that responsibility. And, at the moment, he's not quite finding his feet. But I think this is the problem with Manchester United in terms of this system that Ruben Amorim's playing. And I know there's been so much talk about the system and the tactics, but as an owner to Manchester United now, do you look and you go, OK, I believe in Amorim's system, I believe in what he's doing, I'm going to invest a lot of money into this system and I'm going to bring players in for him to play that system? Or are you a little bit worried that this isn't going to work and maybe Amorim isn't going to stay for the long term? Because they obviously did it with Erik Ten Hag, where they decided to stick with Ten Hag. They give him a lot of money. He brought in his players. Ten Hag went, and now you've got players that are under the Ten Hag regime, not under the Amorim regime. So I think there's a bit of a situation there at Manchester United in terms of recruitment, and are they 100% buying into what Ruben Amorim's done, and is he going to take this team forward?
Yeah. We can't talk about United without discussing that error from Andre Onana.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on... I mean, it was a mistake. All humans make mistakes, but what about his long-term future at Manchester United?
It was a mistake, and like you say, you know, we all make mistakes. I think there's been times on this show where we've praised Onana for some brilliant saves that he's pulled off, but he is prone to big errors like that. And again, is that another area that maybe Manchester United will be looking at moving forward? But yeah, sometimes it can just be one of those things, can't it? When you make an error at a key point in the game at 2-1, you think, well, you're sort of still in it, aren't you? And you could even sense with the crowd when he made that error, you could sense the crowd like, oh, it's 3-1, this is going to be a real tough ask to get back into it. So, yes, we've praised him for those key important saves that maybe he's made this season, but the best keepers probably don't make those sort of errors at key points.
No, because the counter-argument is that's what a keeper's there to do. Make big saves.
Big times,
That's why you pay him. It was a huge statement when they brought him in from Inter Milan in the summer of 23. David De Gea then kind of disposed of. But if you think about David De Gea, I mean, he's still only 34. And for a keeper, that's by no means over the hill, is it? And he's currently out in Fiorentina playing out there. Was that a mistake? Should they have stuck with De Gea?
It's all hindsight, isn't it? I think sometimes you maybe look back and go, actually, was that the right decision at that time? Maybe it was the right decision for player and club at that point. But yeah, I just think it's so difficult, isn't it? Because I think Manchester United players, the team, they just get scrutinised with every mistake, with every bit of quality that they show. And when there is a mistake like that, it's obviously highlighted. So, yeah, he'll be looking at that Onana and saying, I need to be better moving forward. I need to be the keeper that makes the big saves and continue to do that. Because how many times have we said with Liverpool, with Manchester City, where, you know, it's the game's in the balance and they come out and make an unbelievable save and they go on to win it convincingly. We actually forget because of how good they are and because that's something that they continuously do. So as a top side, yes, you have to have that top goalkeeper.
Marcus Rashford steps up training amid uncertain future at Manchester United. Marcus Rashford hasn't played for Manchester United since December 12th and has missed 8 of the last 9 squad selections. Despite this, he remains eager to represent the club he loves. Sources have clarified that Rashford, who expressed a desire for a new challenge last month, did not make himself unavailable after sitting out for the 9th consecutive match in the recent 3-1 home defeat to Brighton. When asked about Rashford's absence in a post-match press conference, United's manager Ruben Amorim stated, "The choice is his. To stay in shape, Rashford has been putting in extra training sessions, but with the transfer window closing on February 3rd, he may still leave his childhood club." Tottenham and West Ham United have been in exploratory talks with Rashford's representatives, and the 27-year-old is ready to take on a central forward role at a new club, though his strongest position is generally on the left wing. Earning £325,000 a week, Rashford is at the centre of speculation as United looks to either sell or loan out the England international this month following his public desire to move. A transfer would be a significant financial gain under the Premier League's profitability and sustainability rules, especially since Rashford is a product of the academy. The United training session on Wednesday, ahead of their Europa League clash with Rangers, will be open to the media for 15 minutes. However, the club has significantly reduced the amount of training footage shared in the last month, and Rashford was notably absent from a set of photos released from a January 8th training session. Amorim excluded Rashford from the squad for the Manchester derby on December 15th, where United claimed a 2-1 victory, and the only time he has featured since was as an unused substitute in a 2-0 loss to Newcastle on December 30th. As you said, it's his choice, Amorim mentioned on Sunday. In the recent games we lost, Rashford wasn't here. I don't want to place the blame on him. Rashford is out of this moment because he's not playing. No matter what happens, I won't put a player on the pitch that I don't believe is the best fit for the team. Earlier this month, Rashford turned down offers from 3 clubs in the Saudi Pro League and has no interest in moving to Turkey. However, Borussia Dortmund has been linked with the United Academy graduate. As Rashford trains diligently, his future remains uncertain, but one thing is clear, he is ready for a new chapter, wherever that may lead.